Guys, welcome to a cult classic horror movie review of 1989's Puppet Master. Now, this stars probably nobody that you've ever heard of and was directed by probably no one you've ever heard of. But that's unkind, really, because it was directed by David Schmoeller and stars Paul Le Mat from American Graffiti and the brilliantly named Irene Miracle from Midnight Express. Now, it's the story of killer puppets, of course, but it's mostly the story of a small group of psychic friends who travel to a former colleague's funeral but find themselves battling evil magic when they realise he's discovered a method of resurrecting the dead and giving life to inanimate objects. Now, of course, it's not a classic that you'll find in any arty-farty film critics lists, but this odd little cult classic has been followed by 15 sequels to date and spawned a huge assortment of merchandise. Let's take a look. So, Puppet Master intriguingly kicks off in 1939 in the seaside Californian hotel where a puppet maker named André Toulon, the last alchemist, is quickly stashing his creations into a trunk to hide them before Nazi spies arrive on the scene, and he promptly takes his own life. Now, it's a great little setup that only hints at what Toulon's been up to. We jump to the present day from here and get introduced to a bunch of psychics, each one of them with a specific ability, which we'll get into, don't worry. Now, one of their gang, Neil Gallagher, has also gone and shot himself after discovering Toulon's case full of murder puppets. So now, all of his former colleagues are all trying to get Toulon's ancient power for themselves, I think. Don't quote me on any of this, for God's sake. But what follows is essentially a teen slasher movie, but here it's annoyingly dumb adults wandering around what appears to be the same corridor of an abandoned hotel whilst being picked off one by toy-sized murderers.
I'll get you, Alex.
Now, I did read a couple of reviews of this that said that the film was dull, which of course I can't agree with, as the sheer shoddiness of it all presents its audience with an almost comedic 90 minutes of fun. Now, I can't remember a thing about any of the sequels to this, so go easy on me if I'm ignorant of something that's explained in a later sequel or prequel. Anyway, this original movie only has about 5 or 6 minutes of actual killer puppet footage in it. The rest of the runtime is devoted to the psychic buddies and them squabbling over a dead body. Now, we'll get to the little monsters in a moment, but this cast...
What about you? What do you do?
I dream.
Everybody dreams.
Sure, but not about things to come.
So first we have Paul Le Mat, Alex, who has the ability of foresight and dreams things that have yet to come, including a nonsensical recurring image of his recently deceased dead friend that, if you think about it for a second, has nothing to do with anything. We have Irene Miracle as the bitchy Dana.
I'm not a cynic, Frank.
I prefer to think of myself as a nasty bitch.
That's enough, Dana.
A carnival psychic witch doctor type who puts protective spells over everyone except herself, so you know she's doomed. Now, my favourites, though, are the couple, Matt Rowe and Catherine O'Reilly as Frank and Carissa. Now, these two are apparently experts in psychic sexual experiments, with O'Reilly in particular being able to tell the history of an object or place by mere touch, and of course, it always leans towards the kinky side of things.
Listen, darling, as long as you're going to be fooling around in there, see if you can pick up on Neil Gallagher. And that young wife of his, of course.
They spent their entire leave in this tub.
Anyway, the great thing about the film, and what you're here for really, is to watch the inventive ways the various puppets kill off this bunch of clowns. And some of it's genuinely nasty. From some pretty basic slicing and dicing, courtesy of a bladed Klaus Kinski lookalike, to a spooky little dude whose head is a drill. And my favourite one that spooked me out as a kid, I remember, the female doll who kills people by spewing leeches onto them. Now, as brilliantly silly as it all is, for me, they never really take advantage of the premise. Obviously, Puppet Master's budget, or lack of, played a big hand in its overall limitations. It all looks very cheap and nasty.
I'm a master. And you're the puppet.
And there's certainly issues with script and editing. Half the runtime seems taken up with premonitions that aren't as crucial to the plot as the film thinks they are. The puppets are the stars, and each having a memorable, unique trait obviously made the film memorable. Certainly enough to inspire countless sequels and spin-offs. And there's some pretty spooky imagery too, some involving a corpse turning up in odd places that I won't elaborate on here, as there is kind of a twist in the plot that you'll surely see coming, but still. Now, there's still a lot of plot being squeezed into this little film, to be honest. Too much, really. I think having the characters be psychics is actually completely unnecessary. They could have just been friends coming back together after a tragedy. Think Stephen King's It. Also, I love how throwaway the explanation of how this ancient, special, magical formula was discovered and put into practice.
This is André Toulon's diary. Listen to this. Today I gave them life, using the ancient Egyptian rites of afterlife.
In terms of explaining things, the film doesn't really have time for such trivialities when it's got another flashback/premonition moment to shoehorn in.
They are harmless, but I fear what they are capable of if placed in the wrong hands.
Alex! Alex, what is it? What's wrong?
Now, unfortunately, there's also not one bit of decent acting between any of the cast members. The puppets have much more personality, which, again, is part of the appeal. It's a true B-movie through and through, much like its director's previous works like Catacombs and Tourist Trap. Now, this movie was pulled from having a theatrical release, interestingly enough, and went straight to video, which is where its true home is, in all honesty. That's where my first memories of it are from, anyway. Now, although Puppet Master series has an obvious cult following, I don't think it ever achieved the horror highs of franchises like Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween, or even the Chucky movies. Again, I like that it's a bit of an underdog of the horror genre.
I'm not going to let anything happen to you. I'm going to hide you in a nice, safe place.
Now, as almost throwaway as it is, watching this has inspired me to check out at least a couple of the early 90s sequels, if only to fill in some of the blanks. So the good old 80s were a golden age for horror movies featuring puppets and dolls. You had this movie, of course. You also had Child's Play, the no-nonsense titled Dolls. Sure, the Conjuring franchise has its jump-out-of-your-skin moments, but can Annabelle use her drill head to stab you in the face, or can she vomit up giant leeches? Didn't think so. Go check it out.